Hello guys, and welcome to episode 4 of the OuterRimSmugglers Flight Academy. My name is Siggy.
And my name is Gary.
How are you doing, Gary?
Not bad, Siggy. Thanks for asking. I've had a really busy week. I've got a new son. He's 4 months old, so he keeps me tired, but he keeps me happy too. How are you?
I'm very good, actually. Today's topic is a couple of things, resources to improve your game. And in this episode, we are going to honor some of the guys who have come before us, and we're going to point you out to some great articles, YouTube videos, podcasts, and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So hopefully we'll find some ways to improve our game. Is it true, Siggy, that you recently won the Reykjavik Regionals?
It is true.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So we, the community, are trying to aspire to the great heights of the fantastic players like you.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And it's worth to note that some of you might already be doing the things that we are going to be pointing out, or you've seen those videos. But this is an academy, so hopefully some of you can use some of the stuff we're going to show you.
Absolutely. I really agree with that, Siggy. I had a few friends who have said to me recently, I had a look at the Flight Academy videos and I did really well. I got a perfect score. You need to make it more tricky. But hopefully there's a few people out there. You know, it's an academy, so it's supposed to be to help people along. So if you haven't been playing X-Wing for 3 years, but you're just getting into the game, or you're looking to improve, or you don't play every week, then hopefully we're helping those guys.
So the first thing that we are going to talk about are podcasts. When I started playing out this game, I listened to the Xwing Podcast, a couple of guys, Ben Curry and Bengtsson from the UK. Do you know them, Gary?
I don't know them very well. I went to a tournament this year in Derby, and Ben Curry was organising some of the stuff there, so I met him, but I doubt he'd remember me, to be honest. I paid him some money and ran away to play X-Wing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah, those were the guys that I listened to when I started out, and they are not doing any episodes anymore, but I encourage people to listen to them because what they are doing is like X-Wing for beginners by beginners, because they started doing a podcast as soon as they started playing the game, so they were learning along with teaching people. I really like this podcast.
Very cool. Sounds like a nice way to do things.
Yeah. And obviously, we're going to be pointing out a lot of things, and we'll put a lot of links in our description of the video.
Sure. I think it's important to note as well, like with podcasts, I mean, this will be true for every tip that we give in this episode, but some people will benefit more from some than others. Like, Siggy, you listened to this podcast and you really enjoyed it, whereas I have the type of personality where I struggle to listen to a podcast. You know, I prefer videos and games and active things. So maybe it's for you. Maybe you prefer some of the other tips.
Yeah, absolutely. The second podcast we're going to be talking about is the Scum and Villainy podcasts. This is competitive gamers like Scott and Kevin Tiberius, Theorist, and Sable Griffin. Really good cast there, and those are the guys that have been running the Vassal tournaments.
Out of all of the X-Wing podcasts, this is the one that I've probably listened to the most episodes of. And yeah, I really like the style of the podcast that they do. I think they were also very excited when they found out that FFG had decided to create a whole new faction and name it after them.
Yep, in the honor of the podcast.
Yeah,
that was a good job, FFG. My favorite one is the Nova Squadron Radio. Ed Horn and Chad Brown host that one, and they have a host of pretty good X-Wing players and tournament organizers. Bob Brandal, Major Juggler from the FFG Forums. This is a Nova Squadron is the DC-based community, and they get a lot of good guests on the show. Paul Heaver and
that's really cool. I haven't listened to much of their stuff, so maybe I'll take this as an opportunity to listen to them a bit more.
Yes. One of the things they do in their podcast is the flight deck. where every member, and they are usually like 5 or 6 on the show, 4,
Mhm.
5 or 6, and they talk about what they're flying at the moment, and it gives you ideas on what's probably good. And many of my successful lists, have come from listening to that. So it's
Very
a
cool.
good resource.
Yeah, I think it's great as well because podcasts are so flexible. You can chuck it on maybe if you're at work, cheeky, or maybe if you're doing the washing up or getting dinner ready, you can just stick the podcast on in the background instead of a bit of radio and get up to date with the latest X-Wing news.
Yes, they're currently the Nova Squadron radio guys. They started like 10 episodes ago. Starting going over each wave from wave 1, and they're currently doing wave 6 Scum and Villainy stuff. And they're going over every pilot and every apple cards, talking about it, and it's a super resource, at least for me.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So those are the podcasts we are going to recommend. There are obviously more out there that you can search for if you'd like.
Oh, Siggy, I heard some pretty important news for you. Apparently, they've hidden the plans in one of the Escape podcasts.
Escape. Good one, Gary.
Sorry. I like bad jokes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to spend some time looking at some websites which are related to X-Wing, blogs, forums, general useful websites. Some of you guys probably know all these already, but as we said, hopefully there are some people who don't know about these so we can give them a bit of insight. Siggy, pick a website for us to talk about. Which one should we start with?
My favorite one is the Team Covenant website, mostly for the reason that it's a blog, and almost every article there is thought out, and it's a quality of the articles posted there. It's not just question of the question like on regular forums. It's not a forum.
Sure.
It's built around articles by the community.
Very good. I must say, I think the Team Covenant website as a resource is very, very valuable. When I first came across it and got into it, I seen some of their YouTube videos from Gen Con and Worlds and stuff, and I just thought they were absolutely fantastic. When I came across the website, I must say I didn't find it the easiest to navigate. It took me a while to get to grips with it. But if there's anybody who's in that position, I can't recommend it enough. Like, just stick with it, and eventually you'll learn to navigate it. And it's such a valuable resource. It's fantastic.
Yes, and I think it's safe to say that if it was not for Team Covenant, we would not have met, because this is the main site where Vassal things are announced, and you and I, we met on Vassal, and
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but for me, until I met that site, I didn't play Vassal.
Sure. I mean, I was already on Vassal, but I definitely agree. It was the start of a beautiful bromance.
Yeah. So check out that site, and if you're into Vassal, and we will talk about Vassal a bit later.
Yeah.
This is the site where big announcements for tournaments on Vassal and stuff like that is going to happen. Also, there are quality posters there, Sable Griffin, and many, many more.
You might even find a cheeky post from OuterRimSmugglers.
Yes, or 30 or so. Did you know that we have had more than 30 episodes?
Really? 30 episodes? That's fantastic.
Yes. Most of them battle reports, but teamcovenant.com/OuterRimSmugglers takes you to our blog.
Let's spend a little bit of time talking about Fantasy Flight games. I just wanted to talk about them briefly to make sure people were aware that not only is there the website, where they put out the updates and, the pre-release information and all of that stuff, we also have the forums. One of the things I like about the FFG forums is they've got a nicely organized area, so if you want to, you can go into the rules debate questions, see what people are updating about rules questions and FAQs, or if you want to, you can read articles that people have written, like some people from the community, and I think it's really handy to have those things neatly laid out.
Yes, that's also where all the spoiler articles come into play, and they also have some good articles by World Champion Paul Heaver about what he calls Turn Zero. I absolutely love those articles, and you should find a link in our description to those, because those are really good.
Very good. And one of the things I like about that is it's really a huge base of X-Wing players. There's so many people who read and post there. You really get a wide perspective from all around the world, really.
It's also very well sectioned, like Gary was saying. If you just want to check out the battle report section, you can do that there. And the rules questions and everything like that. Another one we want to talk about is the board game Geek. I quite like those. What about you, Gary?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. When I first got into X-Wing, when I first got into competitive X-Wing, I suppose this is me giving away one of my secrets, but one of the things I really like about Board Game Geek is it feels to me to be a different group of people, from your standard Facebook groups that you might be in, or Fantasy Flight Game forums or Team Covenant. When I was going to my first tournaments and my first competitive games, I felt like I could post on Board Game Geek and get feedback from my lists or my playstyle issues from people without having to risk, what if they end up tailoring their list against mine because they're going to be at the same tournament, but I could just be free and open and receive feedback anonymously.
And their setup of the site is quite good, and people post their videos there, and it's generally pretty good.
Yeah. Also, I'm really into board games, so I use it for other stuff as well, but that's a story for another day.
Yes, absolutely. It's the same with me. There are a couple of more X-Wing related sites. Some of them have mostly X-Wing, some of them have some X-Wing. Anyone you want to point out, Gary?
I used to spend a bit of time on 3++. There's some X-Wing stuff on there. And I guess the only other one is, remind me.
Battle of Lost Souls.
Battle of Lost Souls, that's the one I was thinking of, yeah. Yeah, they got quite a good X-Wing section on there.
Absolutely. We should check those out, and we should probably mention Facebook here, because there are a lot of great Facebook pages that, groups that you should join.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought it was really interesting. Recently, we had somebody in the UK create a Facebook page specifically for Vassal, for people to organize games and talk about Vassal stuff. And one of the members said, "Oh, can we change the name of the group? So instead of it being called Xwing Miniatures Game Vassal Group, could we change the name so that it could be called Vassal Xwing Miniatures Game?" Because he has so many groups on the side of his bar which start with Xwing Miniatures Game. He wanted to be able to differentiate, which is great because he's involved in so many groups, which is perfect.
Yeah,
and I think it's good to be aware of all of them.
Yeah, it's the same with me, because when I open my groups tab, it's just X-Wing England, X-Wing Nova Squadron, X-Wing.
Yeah.
All of them, yeah.
So it's good to be able to separate them.
Yeah, and it's also a good place to set up matches and find tournaments in the local area. And also people talk about everything from X-Wing to the movies and stuff like that on those places.
I mean, also, I think it's really cool because I've been able to watch groups grow, particularly the UK and Ireland group that Scott Wilson started. When I joined, there were a few hundred. I mean, obviously, it had grown a lot even then when I joined, but now it's like, I don't know, 2.5, 3K plus,
Yeah, 3K plus.
Yeah. So it's really cool to watch it grow. What other Facebook X-Wing groups are you involved with, Siggy?
I'm involved with a lot of them because I spam my videos like cancer on them. Sorry, people. But the ones that I read most are the UK and Ireland one, and the Nova Squadron one, and obviously the Icelandic one.
The Icelandic one is cool. I sometimes copy and paste from there into Google Translate and see what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I know about that.
One of the ones that I only joined recently, but I'm really enjoying, is the X-Wing mods and repaints page, and you get to see some fantastic work that people are doing, modifying ships and doing fantastic paint jobs. I like to have a go with a bit of paint, but I'm not very talented, and it takes me ages to do anything. So it's great to see what people are doing with ships,
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for pointing that out. That's one of the one that I look at a lot too.
Sure.
I am a painter at heart, but I don't paint a lot of my X-Wing stuff because I use my time for other things like playing and doing the OuterRimSmugglers shows.
Sure. And the other thing about Facebook groups we wanted to encourage is just to find, if you have a local group, join that group and meet local players, build up the local community. I'm involved in a couple of local groups to me, as well as some larger ones like the UK and Ireland one. And then there are also some which I'm involved in, and I recommend this as well, with particularly people I met through Vassal, like this one guy who I played in a Vassal tournament with from Chicago, so he invited me to the Chicago page, and a few other people from around the world, and it's cool to get opinions from different people sometimes, and a taste from the meta from somewhere else, and to step back and get a wider perspective is really handy.
We're going to introduce you to some YouTube channels that we think are good. The first one is Xwing Strategy Tips, where Nick Zabicki talks about Xwing.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite YouTube channels in regards to Xwing. It's one of the first that I came across when I started playing Xwing, and I just think it's a fantastic resource. I really like the way you feel as you watch the videos. You feel like you go on a journey with Nick, and you learn as he learned. He came across problems, he made a video, and he shared his tips and tricks with people, and I just thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I can say that I am probably responsible for well over 30, 40 views from his 10 videos just myself, because I watched some of them. I watched again and again, and I've linked them to people, and this is a fantastic resource for beginning players.
Sure, I often go back to them too and link people to them. I think they're great. I learned a lot about formation flying from those videos, and it's a great starting point. Can't recommend them enough.
Yeah, I was not a big. I've never been a big Swarm player, but I wanted to try out the 4BC list, and the first thing I did was check out one of his old videos to see how to best set up my bees, and it works.
Sure. I mean, they've been around for a while, but I still think they're a great resource.
Yes, he's not done anyone new in a couple of years, but they're still true to what they originally was made for. Absolutely, check out Nick and his videos. As with everything else we talk about in this episode, we will link you in the description.
Sure. Do you have any other favorite YouTube Xwing channels, Siggy?
Yes, the OuterRimSmugglers channel is great.
Yeah, plug your own show. Well done, Siggy.
Yeah. There are a couple of. I think that watching battle reports is a good way to learn.
Sure.
Especially if you are going to watch the top players play. And I think that's one of the things that we are doing on our OuterRimSmugglers show is we're showing good players, and I think that's good.
Yeah, exactly. Learn from the best.
Yeah. I like MNX Monday Night Xwing.
Sure.
They have a good show. Quite like them.
I couldn't agree more. Also, they occasionally, I haven't seen any of these recently, but they will occasionally stream Xwing matches on Twitch, which is a great resource as well.
Yes, if you have time to check that out.
But anyway, enough about Twitch. On YouTube, I agree. I can't recommend watching battle reports enough. One of the things I wanted to say about this was I really enjoy watching a variety of battle reports. You can watch the Team Covenant, the Fantasy Flight battle reports from the big tournaments, and they're really well produced, they're really well made, they look very professional, and you can watch the finals of matches, and I think that's really valuable. I'll also spend some time watching the less well produced average Joe filming his Xwing games at his local store, or some local store championships or local regional events, and they're sort of organically produced, and they might not be up to the same level of production, but I think the value is still there in seeing what lists get to the top, how people play, different flying styles. I'll occasionally skip through an hour-long battle report and click forwards every 5 minutes just to get a feel of how the game's going and what people do, and I think that's a great resource.
Yes, I like a Swedish guy called Kristofer Bengtsson, I think it's pronounced.
Very cool.
I think it's called Veldrin on Team Covenant. And the thing I like about his battle reports is he's filming semi-finals and finals from store championships and regionals, and these are real tournaments with good players, and as I said, watching what the good players are doing, what they're flying, it's a fantastic resource.
Yeah, it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, the probably the best looking one is called Sanctioned Trial Series. They are though mostly playing. It's a couple of guys playing each other again and again. So the content looks really good from them. I can recommend them too.
Sure. I also saw some really cool battle reports recently from New York Xwing, from a couple of different store championships. That they were really cool, really well produced, well put together. And some cool ones in the UK as well. I've seen some good ones.
Yeah, and we talked about in previously in the show we talked about Team Covenant page, and they've been doing the really big events like nationals in the Gen Con in the US, and they did Worlds 2013, 3 videos, and really good to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to spend a few minutes talking about squad builders. There are a few different ones out there. No doubt they all have their own positives and negatives. So we're just going to choose a couple to talk about. Let's start with your favorite. Siggy, what online squadron builder do you use?
I exclusively use Unofficial Squadron Builder. I think it's a great app. It's directly linked to Facebook, so you log in there and you can save your squads, print them out, and mess around with them.
It does really nice printouts, doesn't it?
Yep, it is super good printouts, and you can even use your collection. You can check in every expansion you own, and the list will show you cards that you don't own in gray. So you can add them to your list, but you will see what you have and what you don't have. And I think it's a good way to check out lists, and also when you build the list, and you can share it through Facebook, through a web link, through an email. I like it a lot.
Sounds really handy.
Yes, absolutely.
I really like the printouts. Occasionally, now don't get me wrong, I like to be well prepared, but occasionally I'll turn up to a tournament and maybe I haven't printed out my squad list yet. Yikes. So occasionally
I think that's a crime.
Yeah, it's terrible, right?
Yeah.
But occasionally I'll have a quickly scribbled piece of paper with my list on, and then, your opponent brings out a neatly folded Unofficial X-Wing Squadron Builder sheet with everything listed, and it just makes you feel a little bit less of a man.
What's your weapon of choice when building online?
When I started looking for an online squadron builder, I came across yet another X-Wing builder, and in my opinion, it's the most user-friendly. So the one you just spoke about is really cool, and it has lots of great features which are valuable. But the thing that I like about yet another squadron builder is how easy it is to use. So I use it quite often. I'll use it to think about lists. I'll use it to think, oh, maybe I need to change this list. Maybe I need to change one pilot or change some upgrades and tweak a list. And it's so easy just to select your ship. It gives you the options that it has for upgrades. It gives you the pilot, different elite pilots and stuff. And if you want to, you can go along. It has different sections for each faction. And then it has a section for all of the cards in the game, which you can sort by different ways. So if you want to, you can just sort them alphabetically by name. If you want to, you can sort the cards by which ships they come with. And I just think it's a really, really handy way to build your squadrons, and you can just tweak it really easily and send links out and show people your list. For example, if you're playing a game on Vassal, you might say, oh, here's a link to my list, rather than typing out the whole thing. So I've used that since then, and I guess it's one of those things which is part of my personality, that I find something that I like and I stick with it. So I always use it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's probably the reason that I use the one that I use. It's just the first thing that I hit upon.
Sure, and there are lots of good ones out there. So
I have an Android phone, and I also use the Xwing Squadron Builder from there. And when you're on the shitter, it's good to have an app to think about Xwing.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like that app as well, so it's very popular.
Yeah. Another thing I want to point out is the Xwing Juggler. It's a site made by Sosen, Lyle Hayhurst, and the name comes from Major Juggler Bob Randall. It's a site that gathers tournament data, and some people are afraid of net decking, but I think new players should take a look at it, because there are good lists there created by good players, and there is no shame in playing lists that someone else made when you are starting out.
Sure, I think that's such a valuable piece of advice, Siggy. Sometimes I'll have people say to me, at tabletop games or on Vassal, they'll say, oh, I don't want to use the popular builds. And often I feel like people want to make it on their own, and somehow create their own list and make it work. And I think that that's a valuable thing to do. And I think that we should all test out each ship and find out what works for it and what doesn't, and where its strengths and weaknesses are. But I just don't think it's good to say, oh, this list is popular, so I'm just going to stay clear of it because I don't want to be that guy who uses the net list. But actually, the list is popular because lots of people have found out that its strengths are really good. So I just think sometimes people limit themselves by saying, "Oh, I'm only going to use original builds," and there's only a certain number of combinations of these ships and cards that exist, you know. So the popular lists, I think, are popular because they're good, and I think we should use that to our advantage and learn from them.
Yes. The thing is about creating your own list. When you get better at the game, you get better at doing it. But if you show up at your local club with you have little experience in playing, and you have a list that you threw together yourselves with 5 proto torpedoes and something that you think is really cool, you're going to crash and burn because that's just not a good list, even if it's original. And like I said, no shaming in recognizing other people's greatness in building lists and borrowing them from time to time. And
Absolutely.
I've done it tons of times, and usually I tweak them a bit myself. Take out a ship there and upgrade there and put in my own stuff. But
Sure, and tweak it towards your playing style.
yeah, absolutely. And also, if you come across a list that has won, say, regionals, it's not no guarantee that it will do good in your local club, because it might have gone through an easy matchups or a meta that is different from yours. But
Exactly, yeah.
check.
Also, one of the things I think is really important is not to throw a list away because it doesn't do well for you once or twice. You know, like sometimes I'll see people say, "Oh, I spent some time thinking about this list. I put it together. It has a bit of this. It has a bit of that. You know, I'm really looking forward to testing it." And then they'll play 1 or 2 games and they won't do very well, and they'll immediately throw it away. They'll get disheartened, and they'll try and come up with something completely different. And I just think it's important to remember that it takes a lot more than 1 or 2 games to really to test a list, you know. And sometimes you'll see a list and you'll see, oh, okay, it's won a regional tournament or it's won a store championship. But I think it's important to remember that that player has potentially tested that list rigorously. You know, they've potentially tested it on Vassal, they've potentially tested it in real life, they've tested it against different types of lists, they've seen where its strengths are, they've seen where its weaknesses are, and they potentially know how to fly it very differently in different situations. So I just want to encourage you guys not to give up on a list if it loses 1 or 2 games, but to stick with it and really learn how to fly it.
Yep, you might have created the best list of your life, but if you're not going to give it a chance through a couple of losses, then you probably will never be a good list builder. So this has been our show on resources to improve your game. We've enjoyed this episode a lot, and I hope you have too.
We hope that you guys found some value in the resources that we recommended. Also, feel free to add anything you feel like we missed. Add in the comments, you know, your favorite X-Wing resource. Share it with the group.
Absolutely. And I want to point out that we're going to do a couple of shows down the road. We're going to do user submitted lists, and we are going to take lists that you guys submit, and we're going to talk about them. We're even going to play them against each other, and then we're going to give you feedback. So please send us your lists to our email at OuterRimSmugglers@gmail.com.
Absolutely. We're really looking forward to that. You know, maybe you have a list, you're considering taking it to a tournament, maybe you're not sure if it's going to hit the mark. Let us give our opinion to you and we can see what we think.
And this is being recorded on Friday and possibly on Saturday. And in a week's time, Gary and I are going to be playing in the UK Nationals.
Wish us luck.
Yes, please do. So this has been the show. My name is Iggy.
My name is Gary.
Take care, guys.
Sjáumst fljótlega.